I noticed that there's a trend here in Europe. It's even starting to get into Romania, where a lot of people didn't get the memo and they think that it's Trump's America. Like Donald Trump is the man, which has managed to get himself into a position where he is puppeteering everyone in the United States according to his own interests and whims. When in reality, it's the American people that voted for Trump. It's the other way around. It's Trump of America. It's not the America of Trump. So, like, this way of thinking that exists makes you unable to understand certain things and events that are happening. And the second biggest problem is the criticism. Like, a lot of people are saying that Trump is being nasty. Right? Like, he is nasty towards his allies. He is nasty towards the Europeans. Why is he so rude? Why is he so disrespectful? Why is he pushing the Europeans out from peace negotiations? Why doesn't he take Russia more seriously? And I believe I can explain all these things because they're very easy to explain. If my son was 6, I think I would be able to do an accurate job at making him understand why Trump is nasty. The first reason why he is nasty is because he already had a term where he wasn't nasty. Do we remember that? Right? Like, did that happen during our lifetime? I don't have to go through the annals of history and pick up pictures in black and white to show you the time that Trump was president back in the day. Like, no. That happened quite recently. And when Trump was nice, how was he treated by the Europeans? Now, as I said, it's not the America of Trump, it's Trump of America. Like, he is representing America, and this has been a consistent policy of the United States to tell the European leaders to start investing more into their own fucking militaries. They have done this throughout the George Bush presidency. They have done this throughout the Obama presidency. Donald Trump has done it in his first presidency. Even Joe Biden told the European leaders, like, you need to spend more money on NATO. You need to respect your commitments, which is 5% of the GDP, in order to have a stronger military, because at the end of the day, you guys are neighboring Russia, not us. And I can definitely see that the way the United States foreign policy is realigning currently is to focus more on China. They're more worried of China than they are of Russia. And as such, they would prefer if Europe would have its own army, its own military, to at least hold out a little bit. What do the European leaders have done? Well, first of all, they have pushed a lot of money into propaganda. Like, I wonder, I don't have the numbers, but it would be interesting if we have an Elon Musk to do the audit and see if the money placed into propaganda, if they were placed in the military itself, if that wouldn't have made Trump a little bit more happy. Because like the level of propaganda that I've been seeing increasing from the EU, including their suppression apparatus in order to go after citizens that are posting memes and other shit, right? It's a colossal number. I don't know if it's 5% of the GDP, but at this point, I wouldn't be shocked if someone finds out that is the case. And so, if you're going to ignore your own obligations towards creating your own fucking military, and at the same time you have America that for like a couple of decades kept asking you nicely, that they have asked the European leaders as nice as possible. Like every single time you had, Donald Trump going around and saying, hey, stop taking gas from Russia. Like, it's not okay because, you can take some gas from Russia, but if you're going to build the Nord Stream pipeline too, and you're going to be dependent on them, then they can set your policy. Then they can say, do this or we cut off the gas. Do that or we cut off the gas. They can blackmail you. Like, Germany is the engine of the European Union. Without you guys, we can't have a NATO. Like, you need to start thinking properly. And what does Germany does? They laugh at Trump. They think he doesn't remember that shit. At the end of the day, he's still a human being. Right? Like when you have someone that's warning you of something and you're laughing at them, what do you think will happen? And so, during the first term, he was very nice about this issue. And they laughed at him, and they laughed at Obama, and they laughed at Joe Biden. So now he's using the stick. And it seems that the European Union, like my vision of it, is like, as I said, like a teenage girl with big fat tits who thinks that everyone will listen to her because she has big fat tits. Like, she doesn't contribute anything of value, but she's gorgeous looking, she's stunning, right? Like, and because of that, she's in the center of all the social circles. And everyone listens to her, everyone does what she wants, no one wants to be moralized by her. And this is why, like, the European Union is proficient at nagging and bureaucracy, right? It's like the quintessential country of safetyism, of bureaucracy, and of nagging smaller nations. And, you know, people like this, they have a lot of power during peacetime, but unfortunately, when conflict comes, the woman with big tits realizes that she has to get in fucking line. She has to get with the program. And when the United States is finally using the stick, it seems that Europe is very responsible to the stick. It seems that all of a sudden everyone is talking about, oh, maybe we should increase our budget. Oh, well, it's concerning Russia, blah, blah, blah. All Trump had to say is like, we're going to pull away our military. You guys aren't welcome to the peace negotiations anymore. Like, what did they do? They humiliated the lady with big tits, right? Like, they humiliated the European Union by not allowing them to take part into the negotiations. And his argument was, like, if you're not going to pay 5% of the GDP, then how is it fair that you guys will be invited to the negotiation? And the second thing is they threatened her. It's like, okay, well, we're going to pull our military away. Deal with it yourself. And now everyone is panicking. Now everyone is like scrounging up. It's like, how do we get the money? Where do we put it? So this is why he is rude to the European allies, because he tried being nice. And when he tried being nice, nothing happened. So maybe sometimes a little bit of tough love is required. This is how I view things. Right? So like when CNN says stuff like Vance turns on European allies in blistering speech that downplayed the threats from Russia. Well, who's more interested in dealing with the threats from Russia? If you're the European Union, your interest is to appease, like you can either have your own army, right? And in which case you don't need the Americans. Because like real world means real world shit. Like when you go onto the battlefield, you don't fight with morals. Right? Like, you don't go on the battlefield and you're shaming the opposite army for misgendering and for not being inclusive and diverse, and you get the soldiers to be fired and send them home and canceling them. No, that's not how war works. No, like, war works with ammunition and with people on the ground. Boots on the ground, like our strategic ally likes to say. And so if you don't have that shit, you shut the fuck up. Right? And if you don't have that shit, maybe you can ask someone that has that shit to bring it over here. And so if you're interested in the European Union is to actually please the Americans so that they bring their shit over here. But then when J.D. Vance comes up and says, we're kind of not sharing the same values anymore. Because you guys are afraid of your own people. You guys are arresting people for memes. You guys don't know what free speech is anymore. Now, the interesting reason that I think the European Union is behaving like this is because part of their propaganda has been to tell the European Union citizen that it's okay for his life to actually decrease in the standard of living. It's okay, you know, if we have like all these green policies, if we have the Digital Service Act, if we just take away your rights, if we take away your privacy, if we do all of this, it's okay because we protect you from the Russians. This is actually European propaganda. Like the European Union is protecting us from the Russians. When the Russians love the fucking EU. I mean, they don't care if the Ukraine goes into EU. Like, put yourself in the position of Putin and tell me what is easier. To bribe one person from the European Council to infiltrate one NGO that operates throughout the entire European Union, or to bribe the politician of 100 different nations with different cultures and different ways of doing things, to then plant NGOs in all these different nations with different... Like, what do you think is easier? Because at the end of the day, right, like, what does Putin want? Well, he wants to buy his gas at the most expensive price that he can sell it to, and he also wants to set policy that is in his favor. Right? Like, what is easier to do? To convince one nation of that, or to convince, like, multiple smaller nations? No. The thing that keeps us safe from Putin is NATO. That's it. Right? Like, the only reason that and it's not Putin. Like, let's say 20 years from now, you have like a different Russian person. You have Dugin, right? 20 years from now, let's say Dugin wins the elections. And Dugin, with his ideology, he actually wants to take over Europe and become the world hegemon. Because that's his philosophy. That's what he's writing books about, right? Without NATO, he can actually do it. With NATO, he won't. Simple. And so, like, if you don't like the Americans, that is an option. Like, yeah, like Europe can say no to Americans. There's nothing forcing them to like the Americans. And probably, the Americans will fuck off. They will impose tariffs and sanctions, but we don't need them, right? Because we're Europe. We got our own continent. Like, who cares? We're the free market. We're more enlightened than them. We don't need them. Are we going to go for the Chinese? Maybe we're not, right? Because the Chinese are evil too. They commit atrocities within their borders. They're bad people. They're not lifting up to our morality. So we're not going to deal with the Chinese. Okay. Will we deal with the Russians? No, because the Russians are also evil, right? Like, they want to conquer Europe, I understand, according to Zelensky. Okay, so we can't deal with the Russians. We can't deal with the Chinese. We can't deal... Who are we dealing with? Who are we allying with? No one. Okay, so on the world stage, we are the isolated ones. Like, you can't shame the United States for being isolationist when we are isolating ourselves like this. Why? Because J.D. Vance had a speech. Oh my goodness. It affected the elites. Well, change the fucking elites then. Are they irreplaceable? Like since when were the elites anointed like some fucking aristocrats? Change the elites. If J.D. Vance doesn't like the elites, it is for the interest of the European people to change the elites. Why can't you do that? And when I'm talking about the elites, the bureaucrats. Are they irreplaceable? Why can't you fire them? So we can change the politicians, but we can't change the bureaucrats. Fascinating, isn't it? And not to mention, like another thing that I notice is the interference of Americans in European politics. Give me a fucking break. The Europeans have interfered in American politics. Like, there were propaganda efforts to promote Kamala Harris. After Donald Trump won, you had German publications attacking him constantly during his first presidency. And they're attacking him even now. So Europe said that America is saying something negative to Europe and everyone is pearl clutching. But when America was saying non-stop shit and doing election interference in the United States on the behalf of the Democrats, that was fine, right? I think, again, people haven't realized yet that Donald Trump is president in the United States. And there is a chance that after Donald Trump finishes his term, that the next presidency would also be a Republican that will follow the same way of thinking and the same policies that Donald Trump has established. It's possible that he will be even more extreme. And European leaders need to get this in their head. And if you don't want to be competitive when it comes to manufacturing, right, because your bureaucracy is just simply crushing new businesses and entrepreneurship, you don't want to be competitive when it comes to AI and technology because you have GDPR and the first AI bill in the world. You don't want to be competitive when it comes to the military because honestly, like most European nations wouldn't trust each other with that. What are you going to do then? I was actually wondering, like, what is the European Union external policy? Seriously, like what external policy do we have? And the answer is we don't have one. It's what the Americans want. Okay, but like the United States is, unlike the European Union, a democracy. And sometimes, you have a Democrat on board that thinks that the conflict in Ukraine should be maintained. And then you have a Republican that thinks, no, actually we should focus more on China. We need strong statesmen. Like, hopefully, the European nations are going to elect stronger leaders that can navigate the geopolitical shitstorm that we find ourselves in and stop the nagging. You can't control what Americans vote. You can't control if Kamala Harris will be in the White House. What you can do, however, is to start navigating based on who is in the White House, and the European Union needs to adopt the same policy that the United States has when it comes to external issues. Don't say, well, these people are bad, we don't talk to them, right? Again, the mentality of a teenage girl with big tits, like putting people on block. No, that's not the way you actually do foreign policy. The way you do foreign policy is you look at who's on the world stage. You got India, you got Russia, you got America, you got China, right? Like these are the major powers. And then you have like other smaller powers that are also important. And you have to start wondering, like, how can we benefit from our relations with all of these powers? How can we get these powers to fight with one another or to compete with one another in our benefit? That's how a normal state thinks. That's what statesmanship is. It's like, okay, the Americans want to leave. Let's start dealing business with China. Let's see if the Chinese military can guarantee Ukraine independence. You know, like you can do these things, but you need to have strong people with a vision that can actually fulfill the vision. Right now, it seems that there's chaos. And so if there's chaos, well, you're going to have more speeches from J.D. Vance, which I know hurt a lot. They're very nasty, and it brings calamity to our continent. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.